Welcome to American Dreams, Keys to Success, with your host, Alan Olsen.
Welcome back. I'm here today with Justin Hyde. He's a founding partner of the Hyde-Norton Group, a company focused on performance management. Justin, welcome to today's show.
Thanks, Alan. I appreciate you having me out.
So Justin, can you give me some background of how you got to where you are today?
Absolutely. By nature, I guess I really enjoy being an entrepreneur. So I've had a number of early successes early on in life. And I started out actually with a window washing company. And I built that up to about 1,700 clients and was able to take and turn that for a pretty good profit. And in the process, got into investing into real estate before the crash, and we were able to do pretty well in that business. And eventually started a risk management and then a business consulting firm. And now we work in close to all 50 states doing management consulting.
Well, you're one that's really moved on the fast track and is an example of truly what an entrepreneur is.
Thanks.
You're under 35 or what?
Yeah, 31 years old.
31 years old in all these businesses. And so where you're at today, you moved over to the side of helping people to do performance management.
That's correct.
And so when I use the word performance management, what does that mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Early on in my career, I met an individual by the name of Tyler Norton. And Tyler's father ran strategy for Kraft Foods worldwide and a handful of other companies. His partner, Jim Kiltz, was the CEO of Kraft Foods, Nabisco, and Gillette. And I was shown a process that I was really fascinated by. And I realized had I had that process and had I been able to apply that to my businesses early on, I would have had even a greater success on the outcome. And so when we talk about performance management, we're really talking about accountability. We find that most organizations don't really have an understanding of what winning is. So if you ask someone, anybody in any organization, what does winning look like for this company? We find that most people are rowing in different directions. They don't really understand what winning looks like as an organization. You have a boss or a CEO that's calling for commitment, and we use a really simple model in our firm called UAC, which is understand, agree, commit. So you have somebody that's asking for commitment, yet they don't have an agreement because there's no understanding. So for example, I may get home in the afternoon, my wife will say to me, "How come you haven't mowed the yard?" And I'll say, "I didn't know I was supposed to mow the yard." And she goes, "Well, let me help you understand. If you don't mow the yard today, if you don't cut the grass, you're not sleeping in our bed and you're not having dinner in my house." So I go out and cut the grass. I'm pretty committed because I now understand, I now agree, and I'm committed.
And I think another way to put that is you need to listen to your wife.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We all know that that's first and foremost in our homes.
Absolutely. So in performance management, then, when you're getting people to agree, to understand, to commit, there's a common thread that you're trying to build then throughout the whole company, that everyone's rowing in the same direction.
Yep, that's exactly right.
So how does a company get started using performance management?
Very good. I may share a quick story along those lines. When my partner graduated from college, he finished the top of his class and was excited about getting out in the corporate world. And he decided to go have dinner with his father, who was living in Chicago at the time. And his dad said, "Hey, I'm going to take you out on a river or a lake dinner boat cruise, and I'm going to share with you the secret to business." And Tyler got very, very excited. He went out on the lake, and in the process of this dinner, his dad said, "I'm going to share the one secret." And Tyler thought, man, he got out his pen and paper, and his dad said, "Think. Most people don't take the time to think." And Tyler was really ripped off. He felt like he had been given some really bad advice, and he had contemplated this all night long. And so we're kind of the arch enemy to Nike. Not just do it, but do what before you decide that you're going to do it. And so you need to get really clear on what winning is as an organization.
It's all good stuff. Hey, Justin, we need to take a quick break. But after we get back, I want to have you talk more about building accountability into your company.
Great.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Protecting your family's health and welfare is a sacred trust. At Greenstein Rogoff Olsen Company, we know that sound financial planning will protect them now and in the future. We're certified public accountants with tax services for the highly successful. For your business and your family, call GrowCo.
Greenstein Rogoff Olsen Company will help you manage your financial affairs so you can focus on what's really important in life.
GrowCo, helping you along the way.
Apple pie, baseball, and now here's All-American Alan Olsen.
Visiting here today with Justin Hyde. He is a founding partner of the Hyde-Norton Group, a firm focused on performance management. And before the break, we were talking about what is performance management and how companies build that into the system. And essentially, if I can summarize that, it's a process of making people accountable. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So how do you enforce accountability into a company?
Well, like we mentioned in this segment before, really you have to make sure that the team's on the same page. So you got to make sure everybody on the team really understands what the goal or the objective of your company is. Once everybody understands what the goal or objective is, then you need to make sure that they're committed to their objective. You need to make sure that they're committed to their role or their responsibility.
And what is the role of a supervisor then?
You know, really the role of a supervisor is not to just manage, but it's to lead. And there's a real difference between being a leader and a manager. A leader is a guy that doesn't do things just for the numbers, but he pays attention to the ethics and he pays attention to the things that are critical to those guys that are around him. And he does what's right all of the time. And so really, you know, in order to be a supervisor and to take that role or the responsibility as a manager, you need to make sure that you're leading those around you as well.
I want to switch over to moving from the manager to how a person should define strategy within a company.
Okay, great. The best definition of strategy I've ever heard is strategy is nothing more than leveraging or capitalizing on resources to create competitive advantage. So strategy is really nothing more than leveraging, exploiting, and capitalizing on key resources to create competitive advantage. And so I think about strategy this way. We've got a partner in our firm who's had a 3-year-old son that had a health problem. He was limping around the house, and our partner was kind of amped up and worried about it. His son couldn't describe to him what was bothering him, but his leg was really hurting him. So my partner took him to the doctor's office, and the doctor said that we're going to go ahead and put a cast on this leg, and we'll watch it after a week after we pull the cast off, and if he's still limping, then we're going to need to run a bone scan. So they casted his leg, they took the cast off, they watched him for a week, and he still was limping around the house. So they took him in and they did a bone scan. Now, in order to do a bone scan, they had to inject a isotope with a half radio life into his blood and watch it on the scanner. And they asked my partner to leave the room, and he said, "This is my 3-year-old son. I'm not leaving the room. Tell me what I'm looking for on the screen." And they looked up at the screen. He said, "We're looking for Christmas lights. We're looking for anything that lights up, anything that flashes on the screen." And he saw on the screen some flashing lights, and my partner started to freak out. And he said, "Don't worry about that. That's growth plates. And we're looking for off-growth plate Christmas lights." So they found on the bottom of his leg, there was a little area that was lighting up. And he said, "That's a pain point." Now, they were able to come in and solve that. But as we go in and help organizations define their strategy, we're looking to solve not only growth for organizations, but also pain points. And those pain points are called critical issues. Every organization, no matter the age, stage, pace, or place, has 6 to 8 critical issues that need to be solved to help take them to the next level or keep them above water, so to speak.
How often should a company be redefining strategic initiatives?
Often. At least once a quarter, you should be meeting together as an executive management team and really making sure that you're aligned and that you have the right strategies in place and you're achieving your goals that you set forth to achieve.
So having an organization hire you guys to come in, you're not there to be anybody's friend.
Sure. Yeah, we occasionally make a handful of enemies, but in the end, it always works out best for the organization.
And that's how companies grow.
That's
pushing
exactly
boundaries.
right. Absolutely.
I'm visiting here with Justin Hyde. He is the founding partner of the Hyde-Norton Group, a firm focused on performance management. We need to take a quick break, Justin, but after we get back, I want to talk some more about measuring performance management.
Great. Thanks, Alan.
We'll be right back after these messages.
He's the world's most trustworthy man. Tax filing deadlines are scheduled around his vacation calendar. The IRS agent who audited his client apologized.
I don't always advise people on their taxes, but when I do, I save them every penny legally possible.
GROCO CPAs and Advisors.
Come to GROCO and stay wealthy, my friend.
Apple pie, baseball, and now here's All-American Alan Olsen.
Welcome back. I'm visiting here today with Justin Hyde. He is one of the founding partners of the Hyde-Norton Group, a firm focused on performance management. And before the break, we're talking about performance management, accountability in organizations, and I want to move over right now and get into talking about measuring performance.
Absolutely.
So how do you do that?
Measuring performance really is a team effort. And I'll share a story of a company that we helped out nearly 7 years ago. When we came in and worked with the organization, there was 2 employees. They were just launching. They didn't really have revenue at the time. And we got a call from this organization who implemented an accountability and performance management system from the top down. He shared a story. We went down, we visited his office, and he showed us in his boardroom. They've got several hundred employees. They've gone through a couple rounds of funding from Goldman Sachs and a handful of other private equity and venture capital firms. And he told us a story about his first round of funding. He said that one of the venture capital firms walked into his office, and he saw his performance management system taped up on the wall. And he said, "You don't really run your business this way." And this was in Arizona, and the sun was shining through the window, and the gentleman stood up and he walked over to the wall and he pulled the tape back on the piece of paper, and he wanted to see if the paint had faded on that wall, if he really day after day and quarter after quarter ran off of this system. And when he realized there was a bunch of pinholes in the wall and realized that the paint had faded from the sunlight, that this was a culture in their organization, he quietly walked over, closed the door, and he said, "We're going to fund your business." And that was a great success story of someone that really uses accountability within their organization and helped them go to the next level. Now, on the other hand, we worked with an organization not too long ago. I flew down, I sat down with the president, the CEO, the chairman of the board, the whole executive staff, and we got a few minutes into our initial discovery process, and the chairman of the board looked at me and he said, "I don't think we need your help." In 15 minutes, I knew their organization was a mess. And I said, would everybody around this table please take your piece of paper, flip it over, and tell me what your 5 strategies are for this organization. And on the top of that piece of paper, help me understand what winning is for your team over the next 3 years so that I know what all 700 of your employees in this office are doing. And they all kind of looked around the table at each other and kind of got sheepish, and they flipped over their pieces of paper. And not one of those individuals out of all 30 had the same thing written down for winning, nor the same strategies compiled on the piece of paper. And so you couldn't expect any one of those 700 employees to really understand what they're being held accountable for, nor expect any performance if they don't have a clear understanding at the top.
You know, once companies start getting their performance management together and measuring performance, growth is the next step. So how do you manage growth?
That's a great question, and that's a question that most big organizations or small organizations that would like to be big ask themselves. one of the gentlemen that was behind the process that we use suggests that if you don't have your growth plan on one page, you don't have a growth plan. So we see these big, long, elaborate business plans and vision statements and things that get put on the bookshelf and never used. But really, again, it's just clearly articulating and defining what that growth plan or strategy is, and then helping those that need to execute on it understand it and know what they need to accomplish or be held accountable to. A great story along those lines is a credit union, one of the largest credit unions in the country that we did some work for. My partner walked in several months or even a year after the engagement and visited with one of the tellers. And he kind of smiled and he looked at her and he said, "Hey, could you tell me what the 5 strategies to your organization or your corporate headquarters, your bank is?" And she smiled and she told him all 5 strategies. And he was kind of taken back and he said, "How do you remember those?" And she said, "Well, we execute them on a daily basis." Then she quietly reached behind her cubicle and pulled out a 1-page plan that had the entire growth strategy for the organization right there in behind her desk at the teller.
That's a great story, and also it's a testimony to a well-run company when an employee can bring that out there.
That's right.
But bringing this back, a company, startup, growing, they're like, okay, we need some help. What's the biggest challenge that companies have to implementing their first strategic initiative?
Excellent. Really, you need to clearly define what resources you're going to build your strategies around. And so typically, one of the main resources or one of the 3 to 5, an organization, no matter how big or how small, should never have more than 3 to 5 strategies. Now, one of those 3 to 5 strategies almost every time is around people. And you must have good people to grow your organization and to be able to scale. And so I would suggest that in order to build a growth plan and to execute on a growth plan, you've got to go out and find the right people.
Excellent. Hey, Justin, all good content today, what you brought about performance management, putting companies on the right track. If somebody wants to hire you, how do they find you?
We've got a website, Hyde-Norton.com, Hyde-Norton.com. And we'd love to visit with whoever is out there and who would like to figure out how to take their company to the next level.
And what's the normal process? Will you come out and visit them? Do you do it by phone?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll start with a phone interview and really try to understand what their objectives are and where their company is currently and where they'd like to go. And then if there's a fit, then we'll get on an airplane and come see them wherever they're at and then try to figure out really what winning is for their organization.
Very good. I'm visiting here today with Justin Hyde. He is the founding partner of the Hyde-Norton Group, a firm focused on performance management. Justin, thank you for being on today's show.
Thanks, Alan. It's been great.
We'll be right back after these messages.
You're listening to American Dreams with Alan Olsen on AM 1220 KDOW.